The air hung thick and still, a suffocating blanket woven with the scent of decay and the promise of rain. Every rustle of leaves, every chirp of unseen insects, was amplified in the oppressive silence, each sound a tiny hammer blow against the anvil of my nerves. Sweat trickled down my temples, stinging my eyes, blurring the already distorted world of the jungle. My rifle, slick with moisture, felt heavy, alien in my grip. The silence was a living thing, a predator stalking us through the emerald labyrinth. It coiled around my throat, stealing my breath, whispering promises of unseen dangers. The jungle floor, a tapestry of rotting leaves and damp earth, sucked at my boots with each step. We moved like ghosts, phantoms swallowed by the green, our patrol a silent prayer against the inevitable. Ahead, Reyes signaled a halt, his hand a dark silhouette against the dappled light. He pointed towards a break in the trees, a dark gash in the emerald wall. An abandoned trail, swallowed by the voracious jungle, barely discernible. A place where shadows danced and secrets festered. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the suffocating quiet. A sense of unease, cold and clammy, gripped me. It wasn't just the jungle, the ever-present threat of ambush, the lurking presence of the enemy. It was something else, something deeper, a feeling that clung to the edges of my mind, a half-remembered nightmare refusing to fully surface. The silence pressed in, heavier now, laced with a premonition I couldn't shake. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that this patrol was different. That we were walking into something from which we might not return. The photograph was faded, the edges softened with age, but her smile remained as bright as I remembered. Maria. Her name was a whisper on my lips, a ghost of a memory that haunted the edges of my waking thoughts. In the picture, she stood bathed in the golden light of a setting sun, her dark hair cascading down her shoulders, her eyes sparkling with laughter. We were young then, full of dreams and reckless abandon, convinced that our love could conquer anything. The world stretched before us, an endless canvas waiting to be painted with our adventures. I remember the day we met, the chaos of the marketplace, the vibrant colors and the cacophony of sounds. I was trying to navigate the throng of people, juggling a bag of groceries and a half-eaten mango, when I bumped into her. Or rather, she bumped into me, sending mango pulp flying across my shirt. She apologized profusely, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, her eyes wide and apologetic. It was in that moment, amidst the sticky mess and the flurry of apologies, that I fell in love. We spent hours talking that day, sitting on a bench overlooking the river, sharing stories and dreams. She told me about her aspirations to become a teacher, her desire to make a difference in the world. I told her about my dreams of joining the army, my sense of duty, my desire to protect my country. We were different, from different worlds, but we connected on a deeper level, a shared understanding of the world and our place in it. Our love blossomed quickly, fueled by passion and a shared sense of purpose. We were inseparable, two halves of a whole, our lives intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree. Before I left, before the jungle swallowed me whole, we made promises. Promises of a future together, a life filled with laughter and children and the simple joys of everyday existence. I promised her I would come back, that I would fight for my country and for our future. She promised to wait, to keep our dreams alive, to hold on to the hope that one day we would be together again. The memory of her face, etched in my mind, became my talisman, my guiding star, the reason I kept fighting, the reason I kept breathing. It was the promise of her love that kept me going, even when the darkness threatened to consume me. And now, standing here in this oppressive silence, I couldn't help but wonder if I had already broken that promise. The jungle held its breath. The air, thick and cloying just moments before, now felt thin, stretched taut across a silent drum. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, was amplified, a hammer blow against frayed nerves. We were past the point of anticipation. This was the pregnant pause before the storm broke. Ramirez wiped his brow, leaving a smear of mud and sweat. I gripped my rifle tighter, the cold steel a small comfort against the burning fear crawling up my spine. Then, the world exploded. Not with a bang, but a tearing, ripping screech of automatic fire. The ambush was perfectly orchestrated. From the dense undergrowth, unseen figures unleashed a torrent of bullets. The air crackled with the whine of passing rounds. Ramirez screamed, a high-pitched, animal sound, and crumpled to the ground. Johnson, beside me, returned fire, his face a mask of grim determination, but he was quickly silenced by a burst that stitched across his chest. Panic clawed at me. Disbelief warred with a primal urge to flee. But years of training, the ingrained discipline, held me rooted. I dropped to one knee, seeking what little cover the thin trees offered, and squeezed off rounds in the general direction of the attackers. It was a futile gesture, a desperate attempt to stay alive. The firefight was a chaotic blur of noise and motion. Tracers sliced through the air, painting fleeting lines of red against the green. The acrid smell of gunpowder stung my nostrils. I saw Miller, his face contorted in a silent scream, try to crawl towards Ramirez. He didn't make it. A bullet tore through my left arm. A searing pain, followed by a dull numbness. I stumbled, nearly losing my grip on my rifle. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was it. This was how it ended. Not with glory or heroism, but with a whimper in the suffocating embrace of the jungle. Then, as suddenly as it began, the firing stopped. The silence that followed was even more terrifying than the noise. It was a silence heavy with death, a silence that pressed down on me, crushing the last vestiges of hope. I lay there, bleeding and broken, listening to the frantic beating of my own heart, waiting for the final blow. But it never came. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the sound of retreating footsteps, fading into the depths of the jungle. They were gone. They left me with the dead. The rain is a constant companion now. It drums against the corrugated iron roof of my shack, a relentless percussion that mirrors the incessant drumming in my head. Each drop is a memory, a fragment of that day in the jungle. Ramirez's scream. Johnson's lifeless eyes. The taste of blood in my mouth. I sit on the rickety porch, nursing a glass of cheap whiskey, watching the muddy river churn past. The jungle is never truly gone. It lingers in the air, in the shadows, in the depths of my soul. It's in the way I flinch at sudden noises, in the tremor that still shakes my hand when I try to hold a cup steady. They call it PTSD now. Back then, they just called it shell shock. But the name doesn't matter. The pain is the same. A dull, aching emptiness that gnaws at me day and night. The nightmares are the worst. I'm back in the jungle, the air thick with the smell of death, the bullets flying. I try to save them, Ramirez, Johnson, Miller, but they're always just out of reach. Always dying. Sometimes, I see their faces in the faces of the villagers. A fleeting resemblance, a shared expression, and the guilt washes over me again. Why them? Why not me? I survived. But at what cost? I tried to explain it to my wife, Maria. To tell her about the jungle, about the fear, about the things I had seen and done. But the words wouldn't come. They were trapped inside me, a tangled mess of pain and regret. She tried to understand, but how could she? She hadn't been there. She hadn't seen the jungle claim its due. Eventually she left. Said I was a ghost, haunting my own life. She wasn't wrong. The whiskey burns going down, a temporary anesthetic for a wound that will never heal. I raised my glass to the rain, to the jungle, to the ghosts of Ramirez, Johnson, and Miller. We made it, I whisper, my voice hoarse and cracking. But the silence that follows is a lie. We didn't make it. A part of us is still there, lost in the green hell, forever trapped in the silence before the ambush. And I am left here, to carry the weight of it all. Alone. Block 5. The jungle held its breath. The silence, once menacing, now felt expectant. I lowered my rifle, the weight suddenly unbearable. Min stood beside me, his face a mask of disbelief. Across the clearing, the spectral figures remained, shimmering in the filtered sunlight. They weren't attacking. They were waiting. Slowly, hesitantly, Sergeant Tran stepped forward. He spoke, his voice raspy, almost a whisper. Ba Toy! My father? The words hung in the air, impossibly fragile. One of the figures responded, a voice like wind chimes in a bamboo forest. It echoed in my mind, not through my ears. Contre, son. Tears streamed down Tran's weathered face. He took another step, and another, until he stood before the figure. He reached out, his hand trembling, and touched the shimmering form. It didn't dissipate. It didn't recoil. It embraced him. The truth crashed over me like a monsoon. This wasn't a haunting. It was a reunion. The patrol, the ambush, it wasn't a tragedy, but a convergence. A passage. They weren't trapped. They were preserved. Waiting for their last member, their leader, to join them. The other figures turned towards us, their spectral eyes filled with a profound sadness, but also peace. One of them gestured, a silent invitation. I looked at Min, his face etched with confusion and fear. He shook his head, backing away. He couldn't understand. He wasn't meant to. This was Tran's journey. Tran turned back to us, his eyes filled with a light I hadn't seen before. A light of understanding, of acceptance, of homecoming. He smiled, a sad, beautiful smile. Go, he said, his voice stronger now, resonating with an otherworldly power. Live. Remember us. He turned back to his father, his brothers in arms, his family. The figures began to coalesce, drawing closer, their light intensifying. The jungle seemed to hum with energy, the air thick with unspoken words, with shared memories, with the weight of generations. I watched, tears blurring my vision, as Tran merged with the figures, his form becoming luminous, ethereal. The clearing pulsed with light, a blinding, beautiful radiance. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it faded. The figures were gone. Tran was gone. Only the jungle remained, silent and still, the only witness to this impossible, sacred event. Min whimpered, clutching his rifle. What was that? I couldn't explain it. I didn't have the words. All I knew was that the patrol was complete. Their mission, whatever it had been, was finished. Their silence had finally found its voice. We turned and walked back through the jungle, the path somehow clearer now, the shadows less menacing. The air felt lighter, cleansed. The weight on my soul had lifted, replaced by a profound sense of peace. As we emerged from the jungle, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. The world seemed vibrant, alive, reborn. I looked back at the dense green wall, knowing that something extraordinary had happened there, something that would forever change me. We walked on, two soldiers returning from a patrol that had never truly ended, carrying the weight of memory, the burden of knowledge, and the quiet hope that even in the darkest of jungles, even in the face of unimaginable loss, love and loyalty can transcend death itself. The silence had been broken, not by the roar of guns, but by the whisper of reunion, by the gentle embrace of eternity. The jungle kept its secrets, but it had also revealed its heart. And in that heart, I found not fear, but a profound and enduring peace.